This is a Fox News alert. There is new information about the terrorists who attacked a shopping mall in Kenya tonight. Kenya's foreign minister telling PBS that 2 or 3 Americans and 1 Brit were among the vicious terrorists who carried out the massacre. The foreign minister saying the Americans were 18 to 19 years old, of Somali or Arab origin, and they lived in Minnesota and Missouri. And tonight, the State Department insisting it does not yet know the identities or nationalities of the terrorists. More than 60 people were killed when gunmen stormed the Nairobi Mall on Saturday, and right now, the Kenyan military is still battling the terrorists. We're going to have a live report from Kenya in just minutes. But first, what's with the name calling? Fanatics, extremists, and anarchists? No, it's not junior high. This is your Senate.
People want us to stand up and fight Obamacare.
America has learned that it's not working. Americans all over this country are suffering because of Obamacare. It is the single biggest job killer in America.
The ransom demanded by House Republicans in exchange for keeping the government open is unworkable and unrealistic.
They're anti-government ideologues.
No American wants a government shutdown. I don't want a government shutdown. No one on this side of the aisle wants a government shutdown.
We don't have to shut down government, which is the hysterical cry of the left at this point, if we are to undo, unfund, defund one program, Obamacare.
There's no way we should be talking about shutting the government down.
I don't think Harry Reid and President Obama should shut down the government.
Here's the good news. We'll have a vote where every Republican votes to defund Obamacare, and practically every Democrat will keep it in place, and that will be the defining issue in 2014.
So the question, are extremist Republicans really willing to shut down the government? Time will only tell.
The Medicare cuts, the employer mandates delayed, and the subsidy verification delayed, out-of-pocket caps delayed.
This bill sucks.
Sorry?
This bill sucks. It really does.
In the end, the Democrats have the Senate and the presidency. It's going to be difficult ultimately to overcome them.
We will not bow to Tea Party anarchists in the House or in the Senate who ignore the fact that President Obama was overwhelmingly reelected.
What does he say? He says, well, I'll talk with Putin, negotiate with him, I'll negotiate with Assad, I'll negotiate with Iran, but I won't even talk to anyone in the United States Congress about fixing this health care bill.
I believe nothing is hurting the American people more. Nothing is hurting the economy more. Nothing is damaging jobs more than Obamacare.
The Senate majority may have the upper hand, but the American people will and always must have the last word.
And Senator Mike Lee joins us. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Before we get to the substance of the bill, let me ask you a little bit about the U.S. Senate. Senator Harry Reid calling essentially you and Senator Cruz anarchists, fanatics, and also even accused you of promoting a Thelma and Louise-style tactic.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what we were doing. I thought what we were doing was standing on the side of the American people, standing on the side of the House of Representatives, and the leadership of Speaker John Boehner, who last week bravely decided to stand with the American people and say, let's keep the government funded, but let's protect the American people from Obamacare, a law that's going to make health care more expensive and going to harm a lot of people.
All right, so you're getting sort of a rough reception from the Democratic side of the aisle. I'm curious, are things a little chilly among your Republicans there?
Well, you know, we don't always agree all the time on every single vote, and sometimes we disagree. But I think as Republicans, we do stand behind the idea that we need to stop Obamacare. We need to fight it. We need to stop it any way we can, even though some of us might have different ideas about how best to get there.
Well, it seems that some Republicans believe that you're not going to stop it in the U.S. Senate, and that they think that perhaps you and Senator Cruz and maybe even Senator Rand Paul, if he's going to join with you, are sort of out, you're the party of 3 on this.
You know, just a few weeks ago, people were saying that even within the House of Representatives. They were saying, you know, there's no point in fighting for a continuing resolution that funds Obamacare, funds government but defunds Obamacare. And we proved them wrong. The American people spoke out. The House, to its credit, stayed with the American people. The House, to its credit, decided to back up the American people and say, yeah, we're going to do everything we can to protect you from this law. And now it's the Senate's turn. It's our job now to move that forward and to stand behind what the House did and not let Harry Reid gut what the House of Representatives passed last week.
So how do you do that? How do you prevent Senator Harry Reid from essentially stripping out the defunding part of the House bill and sending it right back to the House with just strictly the continuing resolution to be voted on? How do you stop him from taking out the defunding part?
We need to tell him in very clear terms. There are a couple of ways he can handle this. Number one, he can bring this bill up, the House passed continuing resolution, and let us vote for it, up or down, as is. Number two, he can bring it up and say, we're going to allow amendments. We'll allow Democrats and Republicans to introduce amendments. We will debate those. We'll discuss them. We'll vote on them. Either one of those is just fine. What's not fine is if he wants to say, I want my cake and eat it too. I want to have one amendment and one amendment only. And that one amendment will be to strip out the defunding language, to gut what the House did in support of the American people. We can't let him have that.
All right, well, that's behind door number 3, and he is the Senate Majority Leader, and he can pick what's behind door number 3. In terms of door number 2 or door number 1, which are the two options that you can live with, do you have even your Republican brethren who may not agree with you? Are they willing to push, for instance, to have open amendments to this bill?
Yeah, I don't know any of my Republican colleagues who would oppose either door number 1 or door number 2. I can't speak for them, but I'm pretty confident that we would all be comfortable with either door number 1 or door number 2. What I'm saying ought to be off limits is door number 3. If he pulls door number 3, we ought to, as Republicans, oppose that. We ought to oppose him with everything we've got, with anything that's going to make it easier for him to undo what the House of Representatives did.
If given the opportunity, are you willing to filibuster, or do you plan on filibustering any aspect of this?
I'm willing to oppose any procedural motion.
Does that mean filibuster?
Some people would call it that. The word filibuster carries a lot of different connotations in the United States
Well, let me give you the one that a lot of people think, where you just stand up and keep talking until someone finally cries uncle.
That's a possibility. It's not always a possibility given the procedural framework in which we find ourselves, given whether or not there is a floor agreement governing time. But another definition of filibuster includes voting no on what's called a cloture vote. And that is the mechanism by which we could fight Harry Reid on door number 3, to vote no on what's called a cloture vote, cloture on the bill. Some people might say that that would be voting against the bill, and they've got it wrong. What we would be voting against in that context is Harry Reid trying, through a manipulation of the Senate rules, to undo what the House of Representatives did. We can't let him do that. We've got to oppose him.
Apparently, on Sunday, Chris Wallace here on Fox News Sunday said that he had received talking points against Senator Cruz, and that he'd gotten them. He didn't name who his sources were. Then Governor Sarah Palin came out and said that, name names. I mean, who is it that's talking within the Republican Party against Senator Cruz? Where do you fall on this? Would you like to see the names so you know who's doing this? I
would be very curious. I would love to know who those names are. I found that very disturbing. I found it very surprising. And sure, I would love to know who those names are.
Everything's gotten so hostile up there in the Senate and the Republican Party that, where it doesn't surprise you that people might be sending talking points against one of you within your own party?
Greta, most things in Washington don't surprise me anymore. That one did. That one does, and we've got to get to the bottom of it.
Do you talk to your leadership about that at all? What's going on with is Senator McConnell sort of, bringing you all sort of into a sort of room and sort of slapping you all around, say, get along and figure it out and at least work together as a party?
We're going to have a meeting tomorrow, and I have a feeling this might come up.
Do you think you'll get that then?
Yes.
Anyway, well, good luck, and we'll be, of course, watching, see what happens. When do you think the vote is going to be, by the way?
Well, I think we're going to have a vote on Wednesday. Where exactly it goes from there will depend in part on what Harry Reid pushes. But again, if what Harry Reid's going to try to do is gut the House bill, if what he's going to try to do is take this out, not let us have any amendments, but put in only his amendment that would strip the defunding language, then I think we've got to oppose it.
And then it goes back over to the House, and then what?
We keep fighting, and the House does something. The House helps us. We help the House. But we've got to stand behind the House on this one in order to show the American people we're standing with them. We're going to do everything we can to protect them from Obamacare.
Senator, nice to see you. Thank you, sir.